says happened days before a church attack and Grand Block church shooting. That's the name of the church. And folks are saying what is known about the suspected shooter, Thomas Jacob Sanford. So definitely another one of those shootings going on here in the United States. And Pentagon calls up 200 National Guard troops after Trump's Portland announcement. So Trump questioned perception of Portland before approving military plan. Am I watching things on television that are different from what's happening? And it looks like he's definitely planning to send troops to Portland and Memphis, and Seattle mayor and Washington attorney general will be addressing Trump's federal troop deployment concerns. And Amaldi and Humberto delivered double threat, dangerous surfs, and coastal flooding. So tropical storm Amaldi continues moving away from the U.S. coast. Florida could see some impacts. And tropical storm Amaldi and Hurricane Humberto, mainly U.S. high surf makers. So, and we of course are getting some rain here in North Carolina because of that as well. And Trump to attend the gathering of top generals, upending last minute plans. So there's been an unusual meeting with U.S. generals at Quantico, and folks are asking, what's this all about? So top U.S. military brass to hold secretive meeting with Heshes as Trump ramps up Russian criticism. An American fish company closes indefinitely following a mass shooting. So another mass shooting. This one suspect was held after allegedly firing from a boat into a waterfront bar here in North Carolina. So North Carolina shooting suspect was country star's date at an award show and sued her. So 3 killed, 5 injured in American Fish Company shooting. Mental health concerns have been raised on the alleged shooter, Nigel Edge. And Trump said he would think Department of Justice is investigating former FBI Director Christopher Wray. So FBI's Patel clarifies the role of hundreds of agents on January 6th, says Wray lied to Congress, and Trump raises the possibility of inquiry into Wray, another former FBI director. So we'll find out what's going on in that space and whether those investigations move forward. Missouri governor signs Trump-backed plan aimed at helping Republicans win another U.S. House seat. And Trump's $100,000 visa upends lives. My dreams were shattered. It was reported in the New York Times. And even the Financial Times is calling it Trump's H-1B jujitsu. So laid off tech workers are saying H-1B crackdown won't help them get a job. So definitely lots going on in the world. And I'll bring in both Dr. Sharif and Sasha Starr and see what they've got going on in their worlds. Like I said, a lot's going on. I did see that there was the attack by Russia, a brutal attack into Kyiv. I hope our reporter over there is doing well and everything like that. But how are you doing, Sasha? And what things are you interested in talking about? Because we got all kinds of things going on, including the Tyler Robinson defense. So experts are weighing in on what's going to go on in that case, and that's the gentleman that is accused of killing Charlie Kirk. So there's confessions, DNA, and his grandfather's rifle. That's the evidence so far against him, and he's facing those court hearings in Utah. And apparently, Utah received $1 million in taxpayer dollars to ensure that the alleged Kirk assassin has a qualified defense team. So they might be even putting up some money for his defense team. And in New York City, and this is the last thing I want to find out what your thoughts are about the Russian attack, Sasha, and then also hear what Therese got going on in his part of the world. But looks like Adams has dropped out and ended his bid for re-election. So they definitely scrambled the election in New York. So Zohran Mamdani reacts to Eric Adams dropping out of the New York City mayor's race. So as did Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, who was a founding member, I believe, of the Guardian Angels. And they have reacted to his decision to drop out of the race. And we'll see how that impacts the race. Last time I heard that Mamdani had a extensive lead and everything like that. So how's it going in your neck of the woods? And what is your thoughts around the attack on Kyiv that took place over the last week, over the weekend?
Mark, I don't get it. You're asking me a question, and then you continue to talk about some domestic issues for a few minutes. Then you're coming back to me asking question, but then you continue to talk about some other issues. So I don't understand at what point I should answer your
I
question.
just said I
Maybe
was.
I'll
I just said that I was going to bring up the issue because I just saw that on New York as I was scanning and everything. So I said, hold on, and that I would come back to you and don't want to hear your answer. So I want to hear your answer now. That's what I was
So
saying.
is there anything coming on your line
Not
deserving
right now. I'm waiting for your answer.
right now? Okay. How much time do I have to answer
As
you?
long as you want.
Okay, let's start. The war of Russia against Ukraine is now at the point when no progress could be made by, I wouldn't say even both sides, I would say by Russian side. Russians in the last 2 years, they got 1% of Ukrainian territory. So if that would go like that, they need 250 years just to keep this going on, to take all over Ukrainian territory. That's impossible. So without any significant progress on the front line, they are now intensified significantly the genocide against Ukrainian people by destroying building infrastructure and simply killing people. So this is the most probably murderous war in the history of mankind, and all that intensified in the last 9 months since Donald J. Trump became a president of the United States. There are some signs that he is probably changing his position on this war, because before it was one-sided support of Russia and Putin, neglect of Ukraine. He was twice at least stopped delivery of all the weapons to Ukraine. So we'll see where it's going from now on, but it is a critical point that the Ukraine needs support from the world community, including United States. Because right now, what Russians are doing is a genocide. And one interesting thing is, Russians are openly provoking Ukrainians to hit back, for example, to Moscow, Kremlin, or so on. So that could help Putin to justify a full-scale mobilization, perhaps using of even more destruction of Ukraine, and maybe even perhaps use of tactical nuclear weapons.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like that war is definitely raging on. What we're in year three, and it doesn't look like it has any end in sight, unfortunately, and everything like that. But eventually, I'm sure that Ukraine will prevail and all along those lines. But it does seem like it's an ongoing war in that sense and everything like that. Hey, Sharif, another issue we've been talking about on this network has been tariffs, and apparently, and I'm hoping that Nick might come back on and have some thoughts around this as well. But Trump announced a 100% tariff on foreign-made movies, and we know there's a lot of foreign-made movies, a lot of independent movies as well that are oftentimes foreign-made that get play here in Hollywood, and of course there's movie industries like Bollywood, which is of course India, and Nollywood, which is Nigeria, and a number of others, even some movies made in Europe and all over the European theater. But he's repeated his threat to impose 100% tariffs on movies made abroad, as well as possibly tariffs related to furniture. So, what's your take on this whole tariff war? And does Bangladesh have an active movie community?
Uh, yeah, this is very good questions. I just want to share that yeah, tariff is a negotiable issues and it's happening, and especially I think it has a great impact on Bollywood movie from India. India has definitely their own big market for their movie industry. Uh, Beside that, I think China also has their own market for movie and all of the things. Uh, but my honest opinion that even though if they like impose 100% tariff, uh, it will not heavily affected by these Bollywood movies because of this Asia Pacific markets. And it's a long history that they survive with their own market. India, Asia, definitely Europe is another place. They have their own market, so it will not be affected at all. Uh, but I just want to share few important news. Naturally, Asian has some very good news, and sometimes is natural disasters. Even what I discuss about this talent economy after this Bangladesh, Indonesia, Sri Lanka, Nepal, you see this kind of revolution happening in Ladakh. Uh, the youth communities with this activist Mr. Sonam Wangchuk. They are going for this revolution. So he is a climate activist. What he is discussing for the democracy of his people, he is discussing some sort of climate activities. Especially, they want to manage their own natural ecosystem, and they are looking for more employment for the youth communities. I do not see that the global media they're promoting this kind of news, especially what is happening in Ladakh. So I want to say that in terms of climate innovations, in terms of even North America, I know you have a lot of NGO foundations. They do work with India, so we should support what actually happening this Ladakh. Secondly, there are definitely some sort of disasters and natural disaster happening. So a tropical storm that remained as a typhoon Hulai, it struck central Vietnam and already 12 people killed. So there are flood, damaged home, school infrastructures, and many more things happening. So I request all of the global community, please focus on these climate related activities. What you discussing about tariff is definitely political decisions, but you see that North Korean foreign ministers Cho Son Hui meet in the Beijing with the China Foreign Minister Wang Wei. They talk emphasize future cooperations and coordinations among the dynamics, the world dynamics actually changing because of all of the tariffs, all of the immigrant issues. So they are concerned. So ASEANs, what I see is Cambodia, Thailand, Philippines, Malaysia, all of them actually concerned about these tariff issues. In terms of sports, a lot of sports activities happening. Bangladesh just finished the Asian cricket championships, and India get the championship, and Pakistan was runner up in this championship. Beside that, what you discussing about the film and festivals already in South Asia, in South Korea, we saw it has 30th Busan International Film Festivals. So I said that how big this Asian market for the film industries and everything, I think they can capable these things. But uh, what we are observing this tariff, what we are observing these immigration issues, what we are observing through this uh, lot of irrelevant activities, political activities, I think that the global ASEAN market, ASEAN community, they are very much concerned, and hopefully we can get some good leader to solve this kind of complex problem. Thank you.
Yeah,
So
no problem at
movies.
all. Hey,
So
Rick,
a tariff on movies would absolutely destroy the U.S. movie industry. The U.S. domestic box office for the past 30 years, 99.6% of movie revenue in the U.S. comes from U.S. made movies. And so if we put tariffs on foreign movies, which amount for less than 0.5% of US movie revenues, then the rest of the world. Now, the US movie industry makes about half of its money from the rest of the world.
right.
So to stop less than 0.5% of movies coming into the US via a tariff, when there are retaliatory tariffs on US movies, that would cost US movie studios half of their revenue. It would be typical of Trump being the worst businessman in U.S. history. He is a genius at losing billions of dollars. This would be the stupidest tariffs among, some tariffs that are already pretty ill-advised.
I would have to agree with Rick on this one. This is pretty dumb because for a lot of different reasons. First of all, the U.S. doesn't watch movies from overseas. Bollywood produces thousands of movies that we don't watch. They're not sold here. They're never in the theaters. They're not on Netflix or rarely. And so you have to imagine there is no international. The only movies that we actually watch here are ones that are made in the United Kingdom. I mean, which we already have a trade agreement with. So I'm going like, what does all this mean? It means nothing. It's like, it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. As Bill Gates would say, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, except I heard dumber things from RFK when it comes to vaccines.
Yeah, so, RFK has said some dumb things.
My Lord. This guy have dementia? I mean, give me a break.
But I do have a question for Rick and for Dr. Sharif, and if Sasha wants to jump in, and you too, Nick, and everything. Are we seeing a 60s style revitalization of our young people and everything like that? Because I know a lot of young people are behind what's going on in Ukraine, even though it's led by somebody that's more, I guess would be considered more middle-aged, and Zelensky and everything like that. But definitely the youth are behind the war in Ukraine and the war resistance. And I just mentioned Peru and a number of other countries that are going against their leaders that are Gen Z type people. So is Gen Z just tired of politics as usual and ready to stand up much as the 60s youth did?
Well, I don't know. I mean, in America, the 60s youth stood up because they were getting killed in frickin' Vietnam. Right. They hated that. They went crazy. 50,000 Americans, all of them young, were killed in the Vietnam War. So they went nuts about it, understandably. Now we've got Gen Z, which is stereotypically disaffected, just looking at their social media all the time. So I don't know. I need evidence of it.
Yeah, well, like I said, the evidence I've seen has been different countries, whether it's been Peru, whether it's been some of the other Latin American countries, or even European and African countries, and they do seem to be disenfranchised with the establishment, which was part of the 60s movement as well, was anti-establishment and everything like that. So I think there may be some parallels in that sense and all along those lines. But it'll be interesting.
But one difference between now and the 60s is I kind of remember the 60s. I was a little kid, but people were less crazy on both sides. There was less political polarization. And yes, stuff was crazy. There were riots, but individual people were generally less extreme and insane, where now we have social media that spotlights the loudest, craziest voices.
Oh, it definitely spotlights the loudest, craziest voices. I was actually watching a speech on the YouTube. It was actually by a DEI activist and everything like that. I think the guy's name was Tim White, if I remember correctly, and everything along those lines. And I'm trying to see if I can get him on our network and everything. But he's a white gentleman that spoke at Stetson and different other various universities and everything. But he was talking about how when he was in college in the 90s, social media wasn't as big as it is now. Because like I said, he didn't really have social media in the 90s, even though Facebook might have been invented around that time, but it wasn't as popular as it is now, because he was even making that parallel as to how he at one point, I think after graduation, lived with 8 people, so they were splitting the cost, so it came out to like I think it was like $50 per person and everything like that, because the apartments were $500, which is a lot cheaper than they are now and everything like that. But he was saying that they didn't really have that social media aspect of everybody being on their telephones and their devices and doing a lot of social media.
Your devices, your phone was stuck to your wall, and if you wanted to move with it, you had to get an extra long extension cord.
Right, and the phone was not necessarily stuck to the computer the way it was in early dial-up history and everything like that. And now it's not even stuck to the phone cord as much as it used to be and everything like that. So yeah, that was something that folks were talking about as well. You know, the other thing that's coming up a lot these days, and I'd love to hear your thoughts around this. Maybe Nick will come back on this one as well, since he is a lawyer. But a lot of people are talking about ICE and what ICE is doing. You kind of alluded to it earlier, I think, Rick, and everything. But in Des Moines, Iowa, a school superintendent was placed on leave, and apparently they're voting to place him on administrative leave, or they voted to place him on administrative leave because he now states as a long shot bid to stay in the U.S. because apparently they found out that he didn't have the proper papers.
Yeah, it's crazy. He seems like he was a pretty decent superintendent, but there were issues with his immigration. And then when they came for him, he ran and left behind a gun. I don't know if the gun was licensed or anything, but yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, it sounds like a mess. Speaking of mess, what's going on? Because we had several gun shootings. I know there was one in the Mormon church. There was one here in North Carolina off the coast into a bar. So are people just being gun happy these days and everything like that? Because what is our thoughts around guns, and can we do anything about this prevalence of guns in the West?
Right, so guns kill an average of 100 people a day in America. Half of those are suicides. And so, yeah, with so many gun deaths, you're going to have some really bad days, some really bad weekends, just due to statistical variation. Do we have more lunatics shooting stuff up? I don't know. You have to wait and see what the total for the year is to really get an idea of statistical trends.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I mentioned on this show as well as on other shows that I've seen some stupid criminals and some stupid people do some silly stuff. I think there was a case here in North Carolina, it might have even been here in Durham, where a person got stranded and locked up in a overhead of a store because he was trying to rob the store, or maybe he had already robbed it and was trying to escape, but he got jammed up there and was found dead. And now I'm seeing a similar story from a stowaway, because apparently a American Airlines jet found a stowaway dead in the landing gear of an American Airlines plane in Charlotte, North Carolina. How silly do you have to be to try to stow yourself in?
No, that happens every year or so. Somebody tries to, I mean, I guess they get onto the tarmac, they climb the wheel, and they climb into the wheel well, then they're up there and it's not pressurized. So you're at 37,000 feet for hours and hours. There's not enough oxygen, so you're dead. Plus you freeze. But one difference between, you were talking about, the Vietnam War era. One big difference is the U.S. has 70% more people than we did in the 70s, which means we got at least 70% more crazy people than we did in 1970. And so, and the news likes to pick these individual stories, and they're not necessarily indicative of a trend. Like, the guy in the wheel well dead. That's happened a lot. Is it a trend? Probably not. It's probably just one crazy jackass.
Yep. Hey, Sasha, what's going on with Moldova and everything like that? Because it looks like y'all are switching, not y'all, because I don't think you ever lived there, but it looks like at one point Moldova was very pro-Russian, but now it looks like it's going pro-EU and everything like that, because they did say they won a surprise majority and everything. So is this good news from as far as the Ukrainian front and everything like that? So I'm just wondering your take on what's going on with Moldova.
I would hardly call it pro-Russian ever. There were some forces that definitely wanted to be closer to Russia, but rather than that, they are much closer to European Union, European mentality than to Russian. And this election it has many characters. There will be contested election. There will be probably next month they will be spent to create a ruling coalition, and it's unclear which way it will go, but we'll see. Russians' idea was to get control over Moldova, so then to bring their pro-Russian forces and start attack against Ukraine from the south, and particularly against Odessa. which is quite close geographically to Moldova. Um, I don't think that Russians are even ever close to this plan.
If I remember correctly, Odessa is your
Yeah,
hometown where you were born at, correctly?
that's correct.
That's what I thought. I remember you saying that. Um, just in terms of international politics and even investment politics as well. So definitely, Sasha, you may have some thoughts around this. What's going on with Musk trying to take on the Indian courts and everything? Because apparently he's upset about content removal and some of the things that they are doing in India as far as one of his companies, which is X. He also owns Tesla and a number of other companies. But apparently he's ready to take on India because they're ready to put some restrictions on what he can put up and everything like that. So what's your take on what Musk is doing?
Well, it's an interesting issue whether one man, even very rich man, could take on the government of whole country, and in fact, very big countries such as India. That's very interesting to see how it will develop, indeed, because we don't know. It's never happened before, and it will be very interesting to see how it works out. Maybe Musk is right, and he will be able to do it. I don't think so, but we'll see how it will develop.
What's got to do? Hey, Rick, this happened before and everything, and I'm always concerned when I see these things. A lot of times people are doing a lot of very positive things on live streaming, but there's also like contests, and some of these contests are definitely detrimental to people's lives and everything. But then there have been cases where people have literally live streamed murders and all along those lines. And apparently that's what took place in Argentina, and it's sparking some big protests. So I just wanted your take on extremists on live streams, because definitely there have been cases where people have even live streamed people being decapitated
So
and everything.
I don't know what's happening in Argentina, so I can't comment, except to say that individual cases and individual acts and individual lunatics aren't necessarily evidence of a trend.
Yeah, that's true. That doesn't mean there's a trend, even though it has been the storyline in a lot of TV shows. There's ideas of people that are on the dark web showing different things that don't need to be shown at all and everything like that. And
So
sometimes,
30, 40 years ago, there was a thing called snuff movies, which
right.
reported to be movies where people were actually murdered on camera. And all those were shown to be fake. Now, in the past 40 years, I don't know if people started, certainly like Al Qaeda and ISIS have killed people on camera, but are individual lunatics doing that? I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Sharif, what's going on in your mind with the refugees of the world? Because one of the stories I mentioned earlier was this notice in Bangladesh where they're calling for urgent action to prevent a catastrophic AIDS crisis in Rohingya. I think I pronounced that correctly and everything. But I just wonder, are we doing enough in your mind to help the refugees both in Bangladesh and other parts of the world that you are directly connected to?
This is a very complex problem. Even you know that in Rohingya, they are, actually came to Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a highly density populated country, and big amount of Rohingya came to Bangladesh. On the other hand, they are actually getting support by United Nations. But this year's, I think United Nations also reduced the cost. That's why they cannot, because they are not getting enough funding from USA and some other big countries. So that's why they are reducing the cost. So this time, Rohingya has to face more challenge. So this will be an international issues, especially our chief advisor, Dr. Mohammad Yunus. He brings these points to the United Nations, to ASEANs to solve this problem. I think there is a conflict in between China and in between China and USA, and this may be cause of this kind of dilemma and all of the things. Because what we are observing right now that after this Middle East, USA also want to active in South Asia. So in that situations, this Bangladesh, this India, Myanmar, and all of the countries become more valuable in terms of strategic alignment and all of the things. But not only Bangladesh, many countries has this kind of problems. USA also want to solve these problems. Uh, different country has war, especially Middle East has war. That's why many people also shift in other countries. So we need to work together to solve this kind of problem. So how we can do that? First, if we can reduce our investment and cost and all of the things for this arms industry, what you are discussing every day, hundred of people died in USA. From their 50% actually they killed themselves. So country like USA, the US economy definitely very big and they have a big impact in politics. So they should not invest more in the this kind of arms industries and all of the things. We should go for global peacekeeping missions. We need to be active, our United Nations or our regional things, let's say SARC. We have to active. This is complex. This is not an easy job, but this kind of dialogue, this kind of open dialogue, can solve many problems. When these different countries, let's say Xi Jinping and USA, Trump will sit together, they may solve many things. Even though the same way Ukraine and Russia war also has a problem. So we should stop this war. Secondly, we should focus on this technology innovations and progress. It can create more job opportunity for youth. Youth will be very mm, powerful things for these global communities, not only emerging economy like Bangladesh. Plus 5 years with Pot TV, I'm just discussing about talent economy, human movement, and especially the youth community revolutions. Even this Ladakh in India also has same issues after this Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Indonesia. So India also facing the same thing. And this is also climate activists, right? Climate also very important, but I know that Trump administration do not like these climate issues. But the youth empowerment, youth contributions, youth revolution is very important aspect uh, with this technology and AI innovations. You have to remember, USA has 42 million youth. This is also very big. So if the political decision makers, policy makers, they cannot uh, behave properly or they cannot fulfill their responsibility properly, this is alarming. Like Bangladesh, youth can come to power, they can go for revolutions, and maybe the state structures and future next 10 years will be very interesting for this world with the help of AI and youth.
Yeah,
That's the things we are empowering and advocating for talent economy.
yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, Nick, I'm glad you're back on and everything like that because I know one of the people that you oftentimes talk about, and even Sasha talks about him because that's technically the name of the show, is Ukraine, Russia, and China is the Chinese government. And I know you keep in touch with some of the Chinese people through social media and everything. So, how concerned should we be about Xi Jinping and Kim Jong Un now having major conversations with each other? Matter of fact, The Economist said that he is now accepting Kim Jong Un at the grown-up table, and that they are agreeing to resist being um, very alike and everything like that. So hegemony and everything like that. So they're trying to not think that everybody that's Asian is the same and everything like that. So what is your thoughts about what you're hearing from your Chinese friends on Facebook and other social media sources where you talk to them regularly?
Well, they'll agree with whatever Xi Jinping has to say. I do have a little comment about Moldova since you did bring it up, and
Yes.
it is right next to Romania.
Mhm.
And here's the problem: it is not a member of NATO. They have asked to be part of the European Union, which they might be granted by 2030. That's their goal. But listen, it's not a part of NATO. When it's not a part of NATO, that means Russia, remember those guys, can say, we're going to invade Moldova next. In other words, don't be surprised if they win Ukraine. Of course, they'll go into Moldova. And they have a tenuous defense agreement with Romania, but we know that's not going to go anywhere. So this is the problem that we have with the Russian-Ukrainian conflict. Is Russia is a bad bear, and the U.S. is not really strong in terms of stopping Russia and cutting off their supply lines. As a matter of fact, it's pretty weak. You'd think President Trump would be a strong leader. In the Russian-Ukraine war, he is a weak leader. Yes, Sasha.
You see, Nick, as you know, in chess, there is a saying, the best defense is an offense.
Mhm.
So what's happening right now is that Russia, being fundamentally very weak economically and even militarily, let me tell you now, Ukraine is much stronger militarily than Russia, and you will see very soon where it leads to. Now, so this group of countries, Russia, China, North Korea, uh, Iran, to lesser degree, because I think in the next few weeks, Iran will be dealt a heavy and mortal blow by Israel, and Iran will be dismissed from the world stage for a long time. But these three countries, they are, especially having Russia in forefront, um, specifically geographically, because neither North Korea nor China has any common border with European Union. So it's Russia supported by the other two. They are making all kind of the hybrid attacks against the West, whether it's drones or planes. There are now new heavy drones which are flying over Denmark. Uh, that they're flying from the sea platform, and the sea platforms are these Russian ships, including this black or gray, other gray float that carries Russian oil illegally. And US and specifically Europe, they don't have a right strategy. You cannot defend only and win something. You can't. So you defend one time, two times, 25 times, and then on 30th time, they will go through your defenses, and there is nothing to gain from the strategy. The West, specifically Western Europe, they have to devise their own aggressive strategy against Russia and Moscow. However, they have a luxury wait until Ukraine will do exactly that. And Zelensky already said to Russian people, specifically in Moscow, that they have to learn where their bunkers are because they will need them soon. And as I said before, Russians are provoking Ukrainian reply to bomb Moscow so they could then unleash even more attacks against Ukraine. Specifically, they see that, okay, US is so far, let's count them out. On one hand, they're saying that it's not their war. On the other hand, they're supplying weapons paid by Europeans or so on. So let's count them out for a second. Europe. Europeans are glad that Ukraine is taking on Russia because as long as Russia is held by Ukrainians, there is no danger or virtually no danger for Europe to be overrun by Russia. If there would be no Ukraine, if they would say, let's see, they would end some kind of a peace agreement with Russia. So there is no more war. So who is next? Is Europe, starting with Baltic, Poland, Germany, and so on and on and on. And nobody except Poland, Finland, and Sweden, these three countries, they can withstand Russian attack and even counterattack. But this only three countries. No other European countries is capable of fighting Russian army. Now, once Ukraine is in the equation, then this power of Ukraine united with European technology and financial capabilities, then Russia is doomed. Russia will not be able to fight for long. If Russia will attack Europe while still fighting Ukraine, Russia is doomed, say, a month maximum, months and a half, no more than that.
Hey, Sasha, speaking of countries that are doomed, it looks like Iran, even before Israel attacks them, may be doomed as well, because it looks like they are upset about the illegal reimposition of UN nuclear sanctions. That's according to the Times of Israel, and they're urging countries not to comply with that. And there's also this notion that their central bank had their assets frozen and everything like that. So even before Israel blast them and everything, it looks like the European nation is taking financial measures against them to lock them into place as well. So are those financial measures going to work?
Hello, guys.
Who's asking?
I was asking you, Sasha, or anybody that want to take it. But Sasha, do you think that the freezing of assets of the Iranian central bank, as well as the reimposition of Iran sanctions, is going to work? Because that's what the EU is doing now. That's their way of trying to put some guardrails on Iran.
I don't know. This is not such a big deal because Iran survived under sanctions for well over 40 years, and that's not a big deal. But Iran is insisting of creating of their own nuclear bomb. And that's far more important issues that all other put together. And it will be up to Israel to take care of this Iranian nuclear program and just destroy it once and for all for the next 1,500 years.
That makes sense. Everything. Hey, Steve, still with us? I know Steve usually got some things that he wants to get to as well. So how you doing, Steve? What's going on in your campaign?
Well, things have been good. I've been we're lining up a lot of endorsements. It's still a competitive race, but I'm hearing momentum is in my favor. Today's my Sunday. I had 16 hours of campaigning both days, and keep in mind my campaign is in March, but I just finally feel normal again. I woke up, went for a run, took a nap, got the laundry done, and now I'm going to start my day. But I feel better. But I agree with Sasha. I mean, I think we've tried these sanctions so many times against these countries, and it just doesn't seem to work. We even tried them against Russia. I think countries are going to do what they're going to do. And, I am glad of Trump looking like he's going to support Ukraine, but we just can't trust, his foreign policy. And we can't forget that it was Trump's first term that allowed this mess in Ukraine to happen, and all the, there's so much pain and loss and suffering that we can never give back to the Ukrainian people. They've lost their country. So, I mean, I just feel like we have a very disruptive foreign policy. And I think the latest juggernaut is India with the tariffs and the H-1Bs. And it's silly, it's silliness. And we'll just see what happens.
Hey, speaking of that,
all foreign policy is half an hour policy, because whatever he says in half an hour could be completely different stuff.
Yeah, and it's just shoot by the hip. And, I think, Sasha, that's a good point. I remember somebody saying something on a talk show that the words of a president do matter. Mm-hmm. The words of a president do matter, right? And you can't just shoot from the hip, whatever you want to say. You've got people's lives that are at stake. And I think a president also represents the people who didn't vote for him.
Yes.
And, I was thinking about this in America. It's almost like the campaign for the last, 10 years has not stopped. It's you're the president. It's over. Move on. I mean, and this has created this continued divide in America, which I think is getting to the point where it's so bad. And the only way would be if just a new generation comes in, or the Democrats are able to find a way to win back the White House, win back these seats in the House. But has the damage been done? I don't know what they're saying about United States of America and Canada, Sasha. I'd be very curious. But I'm sure it's not as good as what they said 10, 12 years ago.
Well, Canada completely revamped its economic patterns. It's now building the bridges from Canada to Asia, to Europe, to Africa, bypassing America. They're not making any new treaties with America. Even when they're talking to Mexicans, when recently was a summit between our prime ministers. It will be exclusive two-way transactions which do not involve United States. So United States is getting more and more isolated. Even grain business, which was cornerstone of American dominance in the last century, that's going under the drains, and very soon most U.S. farmers will have to be heavily subsidized. There will be no money for them to exist. So they will be heavily subsidized. All the grain now is being carved between Canada, Brazil, some other grain producing countries, and America will be left behind. Because even if the U.S. grain, even if it is competitive by price, by delivery dates and contracts, flexibility, everyone hates America, and whenever they can get a piece of action against it, they do. And that's what now happened in agriculture primarily, but in many other industries.
So 50 years ago, people got their political information from talking face to face with friends, from magazines and newspapers like Newsweek and Time, and from network news broadcasts. And those voices were moderate and mostly sane. Now people get most of their political, information from politically slanted news channels, Fox, MSNBC, and from social media, where they are relentlessly hit with propaganda, and it makes people crazy. So when Steve says he doesn't know how we're going to get less polarized, neither do I.
Yeah, there's a lot of people trying to figure that out.
The media feeds into it. I mean, I did see a good thing with Bill Maher on HBO, but they played on CNN. That was actually an interesting comic with a YouTuber, really young guy, and it was interesting. But I just think it's a shift, and I think the technology is a big part of it. I think that Jeff Jackson, the Attorney General, spoke yesterday. He's a rising star in North Carolina and the United States, and he just said anxiety levels are high, and he did his best to try to give people some hope. Try to find some positive, and do whatever you have to do. I mean, I get anxious too, and for me, it's exercise. As a former athlete, I ran in pouring rain today for about 8 miles. Didn't run with my phone because I didn't want my phone to get wet or my watch. But boy, I came back feeling very refreshed. It was me and Mother Nature and the cold rain again. And now I feel like, but I think people just don't have enough outlets. You got to get away from the computer. You got to get away from the devices. You got to get away from the phones, guys. I mean, really, turn on a football game and just watch some good sports.
Well, speaking of football games, I'm still not sure how I feel about a 40-40 tie, because that's where the last game of the NFL ended in and everything like that, because apparently they don't believe in having a true winner in every game in the regular season. And a lot of folks have made, in fact, I was watching a comment on social media.
I thought they do overtime.
That's what happens. In overtime, you got both teams have a chance to score, and both teams scored. So the game ended in a tie. It was I think on Facebook, there was a 6-year-old that was a diehard Dallas fan. It was Dallas against Green Bay, a diehard Dallas fan. I'm not sure it was a he or she, but they were upset that their team didn't really win or lose because they settled the game in a tie and everything like that. So they spent, and there were people that were complaining they spent 3 or 4 hours watching a game and didn't have a result.
I was on a soccer team that this is when I was in high school, junior high school. We lost the first 5 games in a tie.
Right.
And then we won 8 games wins. And we got to the state championship. And we were 8-0-5.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's going to be for
there
both.
There were more ties in the NFL. I just looked it up. In the past, from 1920 through 1973, there were 256 ties in the NFL. So they've gotten rid of most of them, but you're still occasionally going to get one.
Yeah, you're still going to occasionally get one, and there used to be more and everything like that. So both Green Bay.
Yeah, guys, I got to run. Mark, send me Economics Monday so I can log in before I head to Raleigh.
Okay, I'll try to send that to you by
Email.
email and everything because we're actually going to go to that shortly.
Oh, I
Just
got
really-
it. I got it.
All right.
All right. See you guys
Just-
tomorrow.
See you tomorrow, and I'll see you over at economics. Just really quickly, and this is for anybody, but Sasha, I guess I'll throw it to you since we only got about 2 minutes
Sasha
to go.
went away, but okay.
Sasha, maybe you can take it and everything like that. Do these buyouts ever really work and everything like that? Because I saw that in England they gave 1.5 billion pounds to Jaguar because Jaguar was having some issues with cyber attacks, and I know you got Steve kind of alluded to it and everything, that there have been people that have done buyouts even here in the U.S. and stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
I mean the subsidies from the payoffs from the government saved the U.S. auto industry.
right.
In the was it the collapse of 2008?
I think that was 2008. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it saved Ford, and I think but yeah, sometimes they work.
Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, and everything.
I mean,
like
they certainly save banks when banks go down, like the too big to fail thing. That was 2008. And banks got a ton, billions and billions of dollars from the government because the government decided that the damage that would be done if they let all these banks who are really sloppy with their investing, let them, pay for their mistakes, would be too much for America.
Yep. On that note, we're going to get out of here, but just really quickly before I hit this button and everything, definitely Steve mentioned that the way he maintains his sanity is by going for runs in the pouring rain. And yes, he's right. It is pouring here in North Carolina. And I know that both Sasha and Nick do it by chest and everything. What do you do to relieve your tension?
I go to the gym and I leave my phone in the car.
That's a good idea.
I mean, I still I get crazy when everybody's sitting on the equipment, just working their phones. But, my phone isn't making me crazy while I'm in the gym.
And sometimes the phone can be used for good things. Because one of the things I do every once in a while is I'll turn on Merlin. Merlin is a bird app that lets you see which birds are out there tweeting in the environment and everything like that. So I will sometimes see who's in my neighborhood, whether it's an American robin or whether it's a vireo or whether it's one of the other breeds of birds that are out here.
My wife has an astronomy app where you can just point it at the sky and it'll tell you what stars and planets you're looking at.
Exactly. It's something similar to that with Merlin. I'm going to have to check out your wife's astronomy app. And on that note, we get out of here. And we got Economic Monday coming up now.
All right. See you later. Thanks.
Yeah.